Hi, I'm Ginny Rosenkrantz with the University of Maryland Extension, and we are here in the beautiful gardens and property of Salisbury University. It is October. That's when the skies are crystal blue, the temperatures are cool enough to be able to work and yet warm enough not to have to be bundled up. There's beautiful flowers that are in bloom, and I would love to share my love of flowers with you guys to introduce you to flowers that are still blooming in the fall, but also some gorgeous other fall colors. So join me for Delmarva Gardens right here on Pack 14. The neat thing about this time of year, there are so many beautiful annuals that are in full glory. I mean, like, look at these beautiful canna lilies. And this, oh gosh, I love coleus, especially this time of year because it's really gotten into what it's doing. And then the lantana that you see right in front of me, it is spectacular. And it provides food and nectar for all the different little insects that are still looking for nectar and pollen, and especially the monarch butterflies before they fly on down to Mexico. So you have a choice. Keep all these beautiful plants because, you know, it really doesn't really freeze until November. But this is also a good time to say, okay, maybe if I clean up all this, I'll go ahead and plant a whole bunch of bulbs, and then I'll go ahead and plant maybe some pansies or something like that that you can go ahead and have that will be beautiful through the fall again, and then again be gorgeous in the springtime. So these are some of the things that we can do in the fall, making choices, like leaving these beautiful plants, or saying to yourself, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and dig up my cannas, everything else is gonna go, and I'm gonna start fresh to make it look like autumn. Enjoy. One of the cool things about this time of year is that the trees start to change color. Not all trees will change color. There are some that you can count on, especially this far south. You can count on crepe myrtles. You can count on the American dogwood and a lot of the American maples. But this dogwood, wow, this is a really old dogwood. It's been on campus for, I would say, at least 80 years. I would really love to go ahead and find out how old it is. What makes dogwood so cool is they have beautiful structure. Well, this one is old, so the structure is a little bit different because of so much of it has died off, and then it keeps struggling to continue to grow. And one of the ways that it has been successful is that the campus is taking really good care of this. Underneath, you can see that there is a coating of mulch, not a heavy coating of mulch, but just enough to keep the weeds away so that there's not a lot of competition. And they've got ahead and made sure that there is plenty of good air circulation here. The dogwoods often get something called powdery mildew, and that happens about the same type of temperature that makes the leaves turn a different color. So you have warm days and cool nights. That's the perfect idea for the leaves to turn color, but it's also perfect for powdery mildew. So sometimes you're going to see some. But for most of the part, I think that having the leaves turn this really pretty kind of a burgundy, reddish color, I just think that they're really, really pretty. And the other thing about dogwoods, to me, this is such a four-season plant. In the early springtime, you have beautiful white flowers. Actually, the flowers are very tiny. What you're seeing is the great big bracts, which is a modified leaf, actually. But what it does is it tells the pollinators, hey, come here. Here is where the flowers are. And then you have really pretty leaves. And then in the fall, you have this gorgeous fall color. And if there were any berries on here, they've already been enjoyed by all the native birds. The berries are a scarlet red. They're so pretty. But in the wintertime, what you have is this really pretty bark. It's kind of like, almost like a puzzle. It's very old and scaly looking, but even young ones have this kind of look to it. So I consider this a really cool four-season tree, but I do love the colors in the autumn. Oh, I love the smell of roses. Oh my goodness, this is a David Austin rose. Take a look at the beauty of that. David Austin roses, some of them will last like only 3 or 4 days, and others will last a lot longer. But a lot of them have been bred to keep that wonderful fragrance of the old rose. Now, roses are, as you can see by this one, very, very long, gangly right now. They have this cool cage that they have them growing up in. But in the fall, you want to go ahead and cut them back a little bit, just so that this type of branch won't be, flopping and bumping itself in the winter. Then in the springtime, the best thing to do is cut it down to about 1 to 2 feet off the ground. So right now in the fall, after they're finished blooming, I would cut it, maybe bring everything that's outside of this container, I would cut back. Everything that's in the container, I would cut down to right about here, which is about 3 feet. And then in the springtime, I would go back down 1 to 2 feet. And that way you would have all brand new growth. And these roses grow on new growth. And they bloom on new growth, which is why they're always at the tips of every branch. I love it. There's a lot more things to do in fall. Join me. Now, a lot of times people will see a plant like this where obviously all the flowers are off. This is a purple cone flower, and it's well named because the cone is very cool. The actual botanical name, Echinacea, stands for hedgehog. And if you ever run your hands over this, it's a little prickly. But when it was in bloom, you had the long purple petals, which were really, really cool. The petals themselves were sterile, which is why you don't have any seeds around the outside. But the center dome, that was all the fertile flowers. Now, lots of times people would go ahead and say, well, let me neaten this up. Let me cut all this stuff off. That would be a good choice, except for one thing. We have a lot of native birds. This is a native plant. And we have a lot of birds like goldfinches that actually eat the seeds. So this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it around. You can see how some of the birds have gone ahead, already have feasted on the seeds because there's a lot of protein in there for them. And if you're going to be a seed collector, this is a good time to go ahead and start collecting some of these seeds so you can go ahead and plant them. Now, these seeds of the native Echinacea will go ahead and grow into a native Echinacea. The new cultivars, some of them are sterile, and a lot of them are never going to bloom true, but it's fun to get from the native ones. Just so cool. So join me, we've got more. Oh, I love, one of the neat things about October is when the asters are in full bloom. Now this one probably is purple dome or one of the bird blue eyes, something like that. But this is a native plant. So if you're looking at having either a native plant or non-native plant, you choose asters for natives. Mums, which come in so many colors, they come in a rainbow of colors, they are actually not from the United States. Or North America, I should say. But these asters are definitely from here, and it's so beautiful. This is a variety of what they call a New England aster, and they named it that because they first found it in the New England area. They are absolutely spectacular. You can see that the flowers are daisy-like, and they last for quite a while, but if you look closer, these are just beginning to open, and these are buds that haven't even begun to open. And these are even more immature. So the nice thing about the asters is they will bloom for a good full month, maybe more, just depending on making sure that you keep them watered. When you buy them from a store or a farm market, make sure that you go ahead right about now, buy them because you see the color that you really, really like. Take them out of the container. You want to go ahead and cut the roots. Imagine this is a ball. You want to cut the roots north, south, east, west, and a little bit on the bottom, make an X on the bottom, and then put them in the ground. You want to have them at the same soil level that the pot was. So if the top of the pot is here, you want to have the ground soil to be exactly the same. Maybe about a 1/4 inch high if you want to, because you're going to put some mulch on top of it all. Water it in, and you want to make sure that you keep it evenly watered. Maybe water every 3 days for the first week or two, and then maybe water it twice a week for the next time, because there have been water junkies in a container. They had to be watered every day. You need to wean them off. Then after these guys finish blooming and all the foliage is gone, this is going to be basically November, December when we have a frost. You want to cut them all down to the ground, but you want to leave about a 1 to 2 inch stub of where all these stems are. So you remember that that's where the asters are. It's very good to take pictures in the fall so you can say, oh, that's where my asters were. Because in early springtime, it's easy to say, wow, there's lots of room. I can plant all kinds of things here. And you really don't want to do that. But this is the time of year to come out and enjoy the beauty of the roses right here. that really coordinate so beautiful with the beauty of these asters. They are so pretty. Well, we have to go ahead and take a look at some grasses because fall is when grasses are in their height of beauty. Whoa, I love grasses in the fall. Look at these. These are so gorgeous. Now, these are a native grass. It is called a switchgrass. And this one looks like it must be heavy metal because the foliage, which is so pretty right here, is almost a blue-green. Isn't that cool? I just love the color. But I love the fact that when it has seeds, they're just so light and airy. So it almost looks like there's a cloud just sort of hovering over. Now, they will go ahead and move in the lightest breeze, and birds will come by and eat a lot of the seeds. And they're just wonderful. Now, the thing to remember about grasses is that they need the biomass that is here, which is all this stuff, all the leaves and the seeds and all that. They need to have that in the fall, and you really want to keep it throughout the winter. I know that there are some landscape contractors that do cut them down early in the fall because they have crews that can do that. But if you're doing your own, just remember, these look gorgeous all through the winter. If you have snow on them, they look really cool. And even if there's not snow, they just move with the winter winds, and they're just spectacular. They add so much to your garden. And then in early springtime, I would say in March or April, go ahead and cut them down to, again, about 2 inches off the ground. You can go ahead and bundle them up, tie them up to do that, or you can go ahead and just do them a little bit at a time. What's nice about switchgrass is they don't get humongous. They will go ahead and expand, but they don't expand to like 5 feet wide. And some of the other plants do expand that much. And they get to be problematic when you get to the point where you're saying, how am I going to take care of this? You almost have to dig them out. But these guys are very well behaved and worthwhile looking for. There's a lot of beautiful native grasses. North wind is one, heavy metal's one. So just look around to see what you have. Now this is a beautiful grass also. This is not a native grass, and it does have a tendency to have some of these little seeds sort of find new homes, so you do have to be kind of aware of that. But this is called Chinese maiden grass, and this variety is morning light. And take a look at how the light just shines on these. They're so beautiful. Now they're brand new blooming right now, but as they mature, you can see all these little seed heads on here. They're so cool. But as they mature, they will actually kind of curl over. So even in the winter time, they have a very beautiful, graceful look to them. And the foliage is a beautiful dark green right now, and it turns a very, very light kind of a golden tan. A lot of the grasses will change different colors, but that's what this one does. And again, in the winter time, if you could leave it, it looks so spectacular because it adds so much movement to the garden and beauty to the garden. And then in the springtime, make that one of your spring choices that you have got to get out there with. You could use a weed whacker, you could use a hedge trimmer, it could be a power tool instead of hand clipping. But that will go ahead and allow all the grass that's here that will die back, it'll allow all that to be removed so that the new grass can just spring forward and have lots of room to grow. Now sometimes these grasses will go ahead and die back in the center, and that's usually because people have not cut them down enough. A lot of times people will go ahead and cut them to maybe a foot off the ground, and that's still a lot of biomass for those new sprouts to kind of force their way through because this gets to be very, very thick. So cut it down to 1 to 2 inches off the ground in the springtime, and you will have beautiful grasses all summer. Aren't these absolutely stunning? I love the colors. These are called red spider lilies. Sometimes they're called surprise lilies. Another common name is rain lilies. And my favorite is naked ladies. Oh my goodness. Now the reason why they're called that is that in the early springtime you have the foliage, but after the heat of the summertime the foliage basically turns brown, fades away, and then what you have then is the flowers emerge, and here they are in October, just flaming and being absolutely spectacular. Now I love the way that they've gone ahead and planted them right in front of this beautiful evergreen. This is gorgeous. This is a Camyciferous, and this is actually native Maryland too. So you can see that it has a little bit of swirl with it too. And I just love the way it always looks like it's dancing. See how it just swirls around? And I think it's a great background for the spider lilies. Now, this is a really great little garden because it has so much. Right in front of me, right here, is the native baptisia, or it's also called the false indigo. When it blooms, it has blue flowers, but right now it's got seed pods. What's really cool about these seed pods, if you listen, you can hear. So sometimes this is called an Indian rattle. Isn't that cool? Now the seed pods do have seeds. There we go. And the seeds are very viable. So if you don't want them to be all over the place, you do have to use either pre-emergence or come by and do some pruning. But they're still kind of fun. The other thing this little garden has is a lot of different things that are in bloom too. So right here in front, we have an astilbe. Astilbes are great for a lot of the butterflies and even the hummingbirds like these because they have these wonderful little trumpet-like flowers. They're so pretty. We showed you a beautiful blue aster. To the right, they have a white aster. Looks a little bit like a daisy. I think that's lovely. And then behind it, here's a really, really pretty spirea that is still in bloom. And this is, that's what I love about gardening, because you can still find things. You can see how this had all been in bloom during the summer, but here's a little bit of pink, and this is a little bit of a white one. So some of these spireas will go ahead and bloom a little pink and a little white. It's always fun to take a walk in a garden. You never know what you're going to find. There's so many beautiful surprises. Oh, what a gorgeous summer combination. When you talk about planters, it's really nice to put things together that will coordinate or contrast. And right now we start out with this beautiful coleus. I love coleus because the foliage is so gorgeous right now. This has got a really deep burgundy red, but this almost chartreuse, this sort of kind of filling in the outsides, but also going in and following the veins, giving it a wonderful look that's just sort of like it's dancing. And I just love the solidness of it. But because this is so solid, they've lined it up by planting a cardinal vine. So this is also an annual vine, and it has these very light and airy leaves that look just like that they're flying off. A little teeny bright scarlet flowers that are little star-shaped flowers. And it's just sort of creeping all over the plant, just maybe getting all kinds of colors going on. And then popping out through all of this is the annual salvia. This is red salvia. And it's just basically forcing its way through the cardinal vine and being a companion to the coleus. Absolutely gorgeous. And you can see that there's a lot of little pollinators, like this little bee over here too. This will be able to be in bloom until the frost takes it out. Really gorgeous. I love secret gardens like this where you have all kinds of really cool little surprises. Like this beautiful Mexican hat flower. This is a type of black-eyed Susan. Because it gets so big, keep in mind, I'm 5 foot. Look at the size of this baby. The botanical name is Rudbeckia maxima because it's maximum size. But I just think it's absolutely adorable, and it gives you lots of color and texture and a lot of height, but it's very lightweight too, which is real cool. There's so many different surprises of flowers you can find in the fall. It's worth looking for. Okay, I just absolutely love phlox. Summer phlox is probably my favorite flower, and there's so many flowers to choose from, so it's really difficult, but this has a beautiful fragrance. It blooms in the late summer, and it blooms for 2 full months. Just spectacular. Now this is a lavender colored one. And they come in pinks, they come in lavender, they also come in pure white. This one is probably a really good variety that's powdery mildew resistant. I saw a little bit of powdery mildew on the foliage, but not quite a lot. So that means that this one has gone ahead and been bred to be resistant to powdery mildew. So if the environment is completely correct, it will come down with a little bit, but it will not kill the plant entirely. And I have seen powdery mildew take out these beautiful, beautiful things. So I'm really, really glad that we were able to find this one right here because it's so lovely. I wish you could smell it. One of the beautiful things about this garden is you have not only the beautiful colors of the flowers and the texture and colors of the foliage, but you also have the beautiful sound of the fountain. And the music of the fountain gives you is so relaxing. So anytime that you're taking a walk in the garden that you find a fountain in there, take the time to sit down and take a breath and just feel better, because I think you will. It's going to be fabulous. I wanted to share one different plant with you guys also. I've shared so much about flowers, and I also shared the dogwood, but I just wanted to share this gorgeous Japanese red maple. Now, Japanese red maple have been chosen because when they have the foliage in the fall, it is a spectacular scarlet burgundy color. It's really, really beautiful. This is a cut leaf Japanese maple, which means the foliage is very, very dissected, so it looks like lace. And this color will be beautiful for a number of weeks, and it will give a lot of grace. So they've gone ahead and planted it into a large container, and they've got it so that it's going to be protected from the winter, because this is a nice, quiet, protected garden. And this should be able to grow here beautifully for years and years. So we'll have to take a look at it next year to see how it grows. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this fall garden tour through the Salisbury University Gardens. And thank you so much for joining me for Delmarva Gardens right here on PAC 14.